Okay, so this is about what we know so far about universities generically, and what we wondered at the end, we'll have a chat about whether we get some more specific information from different universities next time, if you think that's useful. But for now, Louise is going to give an overview of what she's been learning about what's happening with the university sector. Louise, you're going to share your screen, or do you want me to share?
Do you want to have a go? I don't mind otherwise, but I've been bounced out 3 times of the meeting already.
Have you? Oh,
yeah, I'm struggling to stay in. So can you all hear me okay without any feedback? Yeah, good. Yes, I've been bounced out of a meeting. It's a bit worried in case I don't know what's going on, whether my internet kept going down or whatever, but it's just one of those things.
Okay, I'm going to try to share you then, Louise, if I possibly can.
No problem.
Hold on.
I know. So
yeah, can you see your presentation? Hold on, I'll just go to the slideshow.
Fabulous, thank you.
Here we go then.
Right, lovely. So Sue asked me to do an update on what was going on with the universities, and obviously there's a lot of change. The Guardian, when we were in the middle of lockdown, predicted a summer of chaos, and I know you were probably the same, but I was permanently looking at different headlines and what was going on, and it's hard for universities to grapple with coronavirus, frankly, with their existing students and predicted new students, and the impact it's going to have on their income and how they were going to function. So anyway, let's have a look at how the different universities are responding to coronavirus. So it's a bit of a quiz for you. You might have to turn your microphone back on. I've got 3 slides to show you. See if you can guess which universities these are. So basically, which university has put all of their lectures online for the whole year? Any ideas?
Cambridge. Bristol.
Yeah, Cambridge. Oh, Bristol has as well, have they?
Yeah, they announced it over the weekend.
Okay, I missed that one. Thank you for that. So Bristol and Cambridge in this case as well. So they're sort of kind of hedging their bets. They were saying it may be possible for smaller teaching groups to take place in person, potentially. But obviously Cambridge is not particularly worried, I guess, about student numbers because being Cambridge, there's always going to be a demand. So they came out quite early, and that's interesting if Bristol's come out as well now and saying that too. Okay, on to the next slide. So which uni has put all lectures online for the first term? Any ideas? But a few clues there in the picture. Attractive.
Oxford.
Could be. I don't know. This isn't the Brian Cox is the lecturer at this university. That's right, Manchester University, another old university. So they've come out and said first term all online, all lectures, but then they've written these notes in their FAQ. So they said they're likely to happen online at set times with some live components, trying to make it more interactive, quizzes and stuff. Try and make the students feel like it's still the same experience, but they're planning for seminars, small group sessions and practical elements of the course to take place face-to-face on campus. So they're looking at kind of more small group stuff, as long as government guidance allows. So that's what they're kind of saying. And then the third one, I don't know if you heard this one. This was earlier on in the lockdown process. This university had to retract from offering online degrees, had planned to go all online, but they had a massive numbers of thousands of staff and students signed a petition against the plan. So they had to backtrack rapidly. It thinks it's like Cambridge and Oxford, wears gowns and posh. Where's that one? Durham, that's right. Well done. So basically what this shows us is that things are still changing. There's still a massive flux for universities, and you do feel for them. If we can go on to the next slide, Sue, what is university going to look like in the autumn? Everything I've seen from Nicola Dandridge at the OFS, and she's got her own, if you want to see what she looks like, she's actually on Instagram quite a lot. The OFS have started being cool and going on Instagram and talking to students. I don't think many students are talking back exactly, but they're starting to put stuff out there. But she's been very clear about saying that the universities should make it obvious how they're going to deliver their courses from September. By the 18th of June, by the time that students are meant to be making a decision about where they're going to go. But obviously things are in flux around lockdown, and so I think the universities feel it's a very competitive market, and anyone who comes out as saying that they're not offering a full student experience, they may see a massive dip in numbers. And this is kind of backed up by, if we can go on to the next slide, there is an organisation as part of UCAS Media. I don't know if any of you have been following what they've been doing, but they basically survey the applicants, 500 applicants every 2 weeks, and they've actually got a webinar today. It's at the same time as this session, but they're basically all recorded, so I've put the link into the presentation here, so if Sue sends it out to you afterwards, you'll be able to. Oh no. Oh no.
Are you still with us? Oh dear. Right, I think Louise has just got. Are you gone, Louise? Should we just give her a minute, see if she can get back in? She's also been lobbed out for some reason. I don't quite know why. I'll just start to show the next slide while we're waiting for Louise to come back. This actually shows what the students are saying through those surveys, so we can all have a little look at that while Louise is trying to get back in. It's not really popular, this idea of learning online and not having that university experience. Hi Louise, you back with us? Hi Louise. Okay, I'll move on through her slides while Louise tries to come back on. Okay, so from that research, I'm just making this up as I go along because I haven't seen all these slides, but
sorry,
I think
sorry about this. It's bounced out again.
Oh, you're back in now. We can hear you.
Yeah,
Right, we had a little look at that, and now we're on this one. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah. So basically, it's really worth looking at what that UCAS Media is saying if you want to get a grip on what's worrying students. And as you probably saw from that previous slide, lots of worries about finances and being able to manage at university. So for those people working with the WIN, a lot of people relying on getting part-time jobs before university or at university could be severely impacted, and those people maybe are thinking of deferring or changing to a more local university. That was one of the things that came out of that. There were lots of contradictory things people were saying, so it's definitely worth looking at the data and going into their webinar. But as Sue, if you want to go on to the next slide, Sue, you can see that the main thing is that everyone's not really sure. And you're probably seeing that when you're working with year 13 students at the moment. A lot of people thinking about deferring. A lot of people want to go as long as it can be as it was with Freshers Week, and they want it to be just the same. But you know, how likely is that to happen? And people just saying they won't go to university. So it is really tough. Okay, on to the next slide then. So what are universities doing to support the applicants? So I'm noticing that quite a lot of universities are being very empathetic. The University of Manchester had a lovely film on their page with a young person talking very convincingly about how young people are the future, and if young people were running the show, this sort of thing wouldn't happen because they wouldn't make such a mess of it, basically. And if you want to change the world, go to university. So they're trying to appeal to people in a very empathetic way. University of Manchester are also running lockdown lectures, so people can get to see Brian Cox and other cool lecturers they have at the university. And they're all saying that they want to be reassuring and flexible over offers. So if you've got some students who think that they may not get to go to that university they really want to go to, this could be the year when they can, because the university are worried about numbers and there's more flexibility around those grades. Some universities are offering flexible accommodation. So we'll be here if you start in September, or it's going to be here if you start later in the year. So that could be useful. And I've seen quite a lot around how they're planning on supporting vulnerable students as well. So either estranged students or students who have got financial issues around accommodation and bursaries, especially to cover those students who literally need somewhere to live for 52 weeks of the year. So there is a lot happening, and if you're working with students, then obviously their first port of call is the universities they were thinking of going to see what help is currently going to be available and what their plan is around starting. So there is also a lot of virtual help available from UCAS and from other groups. So you might have seen it yourself, but UCAS do Facebook live question and answer groups to the UCAS offer group. I joined on Facebook the UCAS offers group, and now I get all these different things about UCAS Facebook lives around student finance or deferring, and some of those are quite interesting, and it's interesting to see what questions the students are coming up with in the chat as well, and they try to respond to those. UCAS has also got on their website now UniBuddy, which basically tries to link a student to a university and a specific course. So if you've got any questions, you can go and chat to a real student who's doing the course that you're interested in. And for potential students who are thinking about going to university, the universities are trying to set up through UCAS WhatsApp groups for particular, if you're a fresher at, Loughborough or whatever, the different groups are being set up already. So if you've got students who want to get going on that, they, might be able to make some sort of virtual mates now. If people are kind of worried about do they really want to go to university, the only great thing is that you could get them to attend a virtual university open day and remind themselves of what they liked about it, and actually go round again, as it were, and sit in on lectures and things like that. And I think there's a day coming up this week with Cardiff, Exeter and Bath University. They've got kind of a joint sort of year 12 day, but there's nothing to stop year 13s actually going into these virtual days to remind themselves again what made them choose university in the first place. Obviously, working with students, they've got to make sure that they accept an offer by the 18th of June, or if they want to change their course and where they want to go because of everything that's happening with coronavirus, they can of course decline all their offers and then go into clearing, which starts on the 6th of July. And there's this brand new service going to be they're offering, which you'll be excited to see, called Clearing Plus, which is meant to be a new matching service to courses and to universities. So I can imagine a lot of people using that service once it's up and running. But as you can say, it's a tricky situation at the moment as we come out of lockdowns, with universities trying to work out what they're going to offer going forward. So probably lots and lots of information out there, but I'll be really pleased to hear from any of you guys if you've got anything that you found out recently, or you've been working with students with particular concerns and issues.
Hi, Louise.
Hello.
Hi. I've literally just been sent an email from UK University and Apprenticeship Search.
Yeah.
They do virtual webinars every Wednesday with different topics. They've got a virtual careers fair coming up on Wednesday, the 17th of June, with 90 universities involved. They've also got stuff on student life on the 1st of July. They've got clearing our admission. So I could send the link to you, but they've got a webinar every week on different topics.
That's good.
This week, June the 3rd, is personal statement writing.
Great.
That's good.
Send the link through.
Send that link to you?
Yeah,
send
great.
it to me or Louise, and we'll get it up there.
I'll send it to you and Louise, and then you can move it on.
Yeah, please. That'd be really good.
I think the student room's also got a lot on Instagram as well. So they've started putting little sort of webinars together, and they had a whole range of different people on there the other day trying to do the question and answer thing. But obviously a lot of the things that the students are asking, will I get the full student experience or should I defer? No one's really got any answers to those things. So it's kind of, but they're the kinds of questions that are coming up. What about you, any of the advisors? Are you getting any students asking about those sorts of things that we're talking about?
Most of the students in our sixth form, we haven't got a lot applying to university, but a lot of them have taken deferring, and one guy's he's been guaranteed 3 deferred places, 3 offers, unconditional offers, and 3 deferments, and that was from Cardiff, UE and Liverpool.
Wow.
So he's just going to go next year. but they're all guaranteed places.
I wonder, Louise, about the smaller universities. So someone on my road is, I think, in charge of student recruitment at Bath Spa. So I spoke to his wife, and she was saying that Bath Spa, for example, are going to try to be advertising the fact that they're like a smaller university, and they're not as dependent at all on the international fund, student money that comes, and that they're trying to sort of think about how students might actually, be willing to give up a bit more of the prestige in order to go to a place that doesn't have as many students. That's
interesting.
Yeah.
Also, they tend to recruit more locally. So I wonder whether that will. I wonder whether there'll be more in demand from local students. Whether people will go. You know what? It's all a bit in flux. I'll stay at home and go. You getting that? Anyone else? Local.
Post 16, Cabinet Federation post 16. That's the big message, I think. And I think UE. Well, I don't know about Bristol now, but a lot of students don't want to take places outside of Bristol if they're not going to be able to go there and do it online. Because if it's online, why would you pay student accommodation to be stuck in student halls working online? So, yeah.
And I think parents also, I think, have to push for that as well. Parents don't necessarily want their children to go off somewhere with the possibility of another lockdown. There seems to be some parental pressure to stay at home.
Did anyone else see Points West last night? Late on news, because there was an article on there about Bristol University. It seemed to be backtracking from saying that it was all going to be online, because I think if everyone thinks it's going to be all online, they won't have the feeling of a student experience. So that it was just interesting. I just caught a bit of it, having seen in the Times earlier in the day that it said it was going to be all online. I thought it was interesting that the Points West programme said they were hopeful of having some lectures.
I heard that. I thought it was sloppy reporting. I didn't see it as a backtracking from the university, but I may be wrong. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I picked up on that, and I just thought, well, as you say, it was such a contradiction to the Sunday Times article, but because it was a bit of a throwaway line, I just thought it was lazy reporting. So it's interesting how we both heard that and interpret it in different ways. Yeah.
Okay. I think one of the problems is that those headlines about all lectures online don't really show the full picture, because university experience is obviously more than lectures. And I know, Louise, when Mike was talking from Bath the other day, he was saying that at Bath they are also looking at moving lectures online, but they're doing that so that they can provide the small group seminars. And actually, when you ask students about lectures and seminars, they tend to much prefer the seminars. And generally speaking, certainly the students that I speak to, they don't really want to be sat in a huge lecture hall with 200 other students. And if you say to them, well, those lectures might be online, but you're going to have interaction in smaller groups, they actually quite like that. So the headlines, I think, are a little bit misleading sometimes, because it implies that everything's going to be online and all teaching will be online. But I don't think that that's particularly the case, and it might be that maybe that's what Bristol was trying to, I didn't see Points West, but maybe that's what Bristol were trying to put across.
And I think also that there are lots of universities who have for many years put all their lectures online. So I know, for example, Sheffield University has all their lectures online and have done for some years. So for some universities, it's not a new thing to have those as a backup.
It's interesting. Also, because I went to school in the States, so I come from a different perspective, but because university is so outrageously expensive in the US, there's more of it's like a really strong emphasis on the actual academic as opposed to the experience, the student experience. So it's interesting, because I think I agree with you, Rose. There could be a real benefit to students actually getting more contact hours if universities are going to be hiring more people who can do seminars and that type of thing than sitting in a giant lecture hall. But for our students who've been thinking about going to university their whole life and aspiring to it, you know, of course, the day-to-day experience is not exactly what you want when you're 19, is it?
Yeah.
I was reading also a student saying about the limitation on study space and not being able to get into the comms rooms to do their work was an issue that they were thinking about, which I thought was a good point.
Okay, guys, I'm going to just stop us there. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Can you hear me?
I should apologise. I was bounced out twice during
Yeah,
the
I don't know what was
so
going
I'm really
on.
sorry about that. It's a really interesting discussion. Sorry.
Can you hear me, Louise?
Yes.
Oh, that's all right. Sorry, sometimes it. Okay, I just want to wrap this up by just trying to get. Oh God, can you turn your mics off? Sorry, I think it's when there's too many mics going, you just can't cope with it really. So I'm just going to share my screen again because it'd be good to know if this is a useful thing to do. I know we have our little technical things, but I've hardly been at a meeting where there hasn't been some sort of little technical gremlins going on. So I think this is probably the new reality. So I'm just interested to know whether you would like us to do, we were thinking about once a month, but I'd be interested to know your view on that. And then whether, you know, there are particular people who you might like to come along. So for example, Mike Nicholson, a few people have mentioned him. He's head of admissions here at Bath, but he actually is on UK universities forums and all sorts of things. So he's often very good at giving the Bath view, but also, you know, the generic universities view. And for example, he'd be free to come next time. So I'd be good if somebody says something to me, because I've shown my presentation so I can't see chat. What do you think of Mike coming along maybe?
Yes.
He's always good value. And if there's other people as well, like, you know, if we got Bath, maybe would you like somebody from University of Bristol or UE?
Yeah, or Bath Spa, given what a colleague said earlier.
It would be very useful to have someone from UE, I think.
Yeah, so we could maybe see if we could give each of the universities a sort of short slot and then have some questions. So we could actually have quite a focused part of the meeting on universities. What about the Uni Connects, the NCOPs? Do you think it might be worth having a little update from them about how they're supporting that particular group of students in their progression to HE? Because, you know, these were the kids who don't normally go to HE and had all this intervention to help them do that. And obviously we've got this massive thing going on now. I don't know if that's useful. Louise, say yes or no, so I know that you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, that's fine. Sometimes you can't tell.
I mean, it would be useful. We just may know more, mightn't we? Because it's a whole month on. Everything seems to be in quite a lot of flux. I don't know how other people feel. I feel like I'm waiting for people to commit to things. And once, you know, it sounds like the colleges are actually the people who are actually getting on with things. They have at least got dates for people to come in and do assessments on their courses. I feel like I have a better understanding of where college is at. But you know, I think that we will with universities come after the 18th of June. People are going to have to commit one way or another, online, face to face, whatever it is. We're gonna get more info. So I think that will definitely be useful for the next session, and then potentially going forward as the furlough scheme ends, or you know, the employers have to pay more, don't they, come the end of August? Is that right? Then it could be that then we start to see more labour market stuff, or kids support for kids coming through, you know, who maybe traineeships, like Alex said, or there may be some new sort of supported schemes for NEETs or something like that. So I don't know, maybe we should focus on universities next time and just sort of labour market updates. But you know, things are changing, aren't they, all the time?
Yeah, I think I'd be good. Sorry, go on. Somebody want to say something?
Oh, I was just sorry, it's Melanie. I was just going to say, Sue, maybe for an August date, maybe this isn't the right forum, but I would love to hear what people are planning for results day.
Yeah, that's a good one.
In terms of both careers advisors being in schools, what they're expecting, just because it's going to be such a different type of day. And then also the resources that, you know, the colleges and things are going to have.
Yeah, I think that'd be a really good idea. We could maybe get different people talking about what their plans are for Results Day, and also maybe as we're all careers, you know, some of us got dual roles, we're careers advisors and we're in the school, so it'd be quite good to think about what the school's doing, but also what we can do as careers advisors to support that. Okay, great. Any other ideas, you just send them in and we'll try to put it together. I mean, hopefully it's been, you know, kind of useful to actually have one place where we can get a range of people speaking. If you don't think it's useful, again, let me know. I just wanted to tell you what we're doing on Career Pilot in case you haven't seen this yet. We've got new content. This is aimed at students. And what we're trying to do is pull things together, and from today we can update again what we've got in these spaces to tell them, you know, if you're thinking about A-levels, what you need to think about, or if you're thinking about jobs. So we're trying to put all the key messages in there that we're gathering. So that might be a useful resource for advisors, but teachers, but also for kids. We've also got things like online tutorials for each age group, and what you'll find there, these are new ones. Debbie's put these together. So this is a taught session of usually about an hour using Career Pilot with a particular theme. But you can see there's some bridging ones. There's a year-long vocational one. So if you're at a college and you want the students to do a bit of career stuff before they come to you, then that is one you could use. Or if, you know, if kids are going to the local college. There's also one for A-level students too. So they're trying to help students think about what they could be doing now about their careers, even if they think that, you know, they've got their A-level sorted, what other things could they be exploring? And we're looking at new things. Let us know if you think of something. And then in the advisor zone, we've got our home learning activities. There's something there for every year group. And there's also staff sessions as well. One school just put out our 30-minute staff session, which is about, you know, how staff can use Career Pilot, to all their staff team, and got them to feedback 2 key points about what they liked about the site and how they would use it. And it went down really well, apparently, because they've got a little bit of time at the moment to do it. And it's not like after school and they're all feeling a bit grumpy. Why am I made to do this? So that's something you could use. And then the information for advisors, at the moment it just says come in soon, because that's what we're going to put in the other stuff up from today and any other things we come across. So if you send me anything, that's where we'll be putting it. And also in the parent zone, we've got a new tile, which is information for parents, and that's got answers to questions that parents might be asking, like how are the results going to be calculated, those sort of things. So again, we'll try to feed anything that's coming from these lockdown meetings into Career Pilot, so that you've got a source of information. You could be feeding into that as well. So don't be afraid to send us any good links or things that you come across, and then we'll put them up on the site. So if anybody wants to ask or say anything else, we're perfectly on time, which is a miracle. But if you haven't, then I just want to say thanks for coming along. And, you know, like I say, any ideas, any suggestions for what we might do in these meetings, then let myself or Louise know, and we'll see what we can set up. Any last minute thoughts? Or I'm just going to come back in so I can see the chat in case somebody's chatting. Anybody? Well, thanks so much, and thank you, Rose and Alex, and I think Charlotte's had to go, but Louise too, for actually doing a presentation. It's really good to get kind of a bit of input. And just to say a big thank you to everybody. I'll close the meeting now. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye.